Hey. Oh, hey. Busy weekend? Yeah, so busy. You? Yeah, so busy. Why was yours busy? Why was mine busy? Oh, I just had a lot of work I had to catch up on. Oh, yeah. Did you catch up? No. Here's how to stop this from ever happening to you. This mess used to be me before I became more proficient in the art of asking questions. I learned how to think of more questions, how to think of better questions, how to actually ask questions in a better way, which is actually the most important thing, and also how to play it off if a question doesn't go so well, which is inevitable. Asking good questions in the right way is actually the biggest determinant, I think, of how well you can connect with people and how long your conversations are. So these tips I'm going to give you, if you apply them well and if you practice them, have the potential to transform your social life. So how do you ask questions in a better way? The most important bit. Well, asking questions is really about showing interest in people. If you don't show interest, then you're not going to have a long conversation because the other person just isn't going to want to talk to someone who doesn't even care what they're saying. And if you don't show interest, you're not showing that you like the other person. So they're not going to enjoy talking to you and they're not going to build a connection with you because we connect with people who actually like us. It doesn't matter how good the questions you're asking are. If you are just kind of darting your eyes around and you're saying them in kind of an unconfident way, you're not showing that you actually care what they say. So they're not going to say much in response. And you're going to be left with lots of awkward conversations that don't lead anywhere. And oppositely, if you ask questions in a good way, you're going to be able to use pretty much any question. You can ask anything and it will work. So some stuff you can say when you're not asking questions directly about the other person is you can add on extra stuff that kind of shows that you're interested in what you're asking, what you're about to ask. So if I just say like, oh, what color is your cat? Or what breed is your cat? I could just be making conversation. I might not actually care. But if I say like, oh, I've been looking into getting a cat, like what breed is yours? Have you found that it's very good? You've now built a connection to why you're actually asking that question, which is, it's selfish, sure, it's you want to get a cat, but you're still interested in what they're saying. You can also say something that you've been wondering if it's true. So you can be like, hey, someone told me that like in Japan, like it's always like really cold. Is that true? Have you found that? And that's another way of just doing the same thing. So this doesn't work as well when you're directly asking questions about the other person, like how was your day? You don't need to put a selfish twist on it then. You don't need to make it about something that you've experienced or whatever every single time. But when you do it sometimes, it doesn't come across as selfish. It comes across as you're more interested. Another thing to do is to actually say your questions with confidence. So I used to be kind of worried about whether people were going to judge the question I was going to ask, like especially if I had a particularly kind of weird question that I was a bit uncomfortable using, such as, what do you do in your free time? I might not ask it very confidently. I'd be like, so what do you do in your free time? Kind of like I know that it's kind of cringe that I'm asking it or whatever. And when you don't have confidence in what you're saying, the other person isn't going to have confidence in their answer. They're going to think that you don't really care or that you're not actually trying to learn more about them. You're just trying to make conversation and this is the best question you got and you know it's not that good. When you have confidence in your answer, it shows interest. It shows that you're asking this question not to make conversation, not to test out a question, but to connect and learn more about the other person. And you also want to use the right tone and facial expression. So when you're asking questions, you need to sound curious. You can't just say, so how was your day? Like no one's they're going to be like, good. You know, because they'll match your energy. When you ask a question, their answer always has to match how the question was asked. Otherwise, they're just going to be annoying and weird or whatever. So you have to provide the good tone and the facial expression when you're asking questions and ask them confidently. And then also when they answer, you have to show facial expression and show tone in your responses so that they keep talking. So I'm going to give a couple examples of this. So let's take a really weird question, which I think is pretty weird. And I'm going to say it in a bad way and a good way. Do you wish you could lay eggs? They're going to be like, what, bro, what? Versus this. I've been thinking recently, weird question I know, but do you ever wish you could lay eggs? So how about this one? How was your weekend? Or how about this? So tell me about your weekend. Was there anything exciting you did? You can also just tack on an observation to the front of the question to add interest and to link it to prior conversations. So instead of like, what do you do for work? You can say like, as I've been talking to you, you seem like you're very like disciplined and stuff. What do you do for work? I bet it's something interesting. So if you ask questions in the right way, even the boring and the weird questions can go well and can lead to great conversations. But if you're not convinced, then this tip on how to play it off if a question doesn't go well should give you full confidence, right? Because even if it doesn't go well, it'll be fine. So how you do that is you kind of make it like a joke. So when you kind of joke around about it, you're making it seem like you're confident. You don't care that your question just flopped and that there's about to be an awkward silence. You're also buying time and you're making it not awkward. So like if you tell a joke, that's maybe like another 10 seconds where you can think of another question to ask, and then you just ask that. And then awkward silence diverted, crisis avoided. It also can often, surprisingly often, just lead to another conversation. So for example, if I'm just asking like, would you rather mind control 10,000 ants or 10,000 bees? That's some question I saw online. So if they just don't really give a good response, you can play it off by going like, what, are you one of those people who are like allergic to bees or something, or allergic to ants, and that's why? Or just like, you know, just ask some dumb question like that, and it's just a second shot at it. Or you could go even more down the joke route and be like, I bet you're some secret like scientist who's working on mind controlling bees and I've just uncovered your experiment. I got you, bro. So given what I've said about how you can basically ask anything, and if you ask it in the right way, it will probably go well, but even if it doesn't, you can play it off. Given that, it should be a lot easier now to come up with questions because you're not waiting around for the perfect question. That being said, if you still can't think of enough questions, there's an acronym. It's FORWARD with like an arrow on either side. So like arrow, forward, arrow. So what they stands for is the arrow to either side stands for like the past and the present. So you can ask about what just happened, how was your weekend? We generally ask like what was the most exciting thing that happened? Because then it's not just how was your weekend, good. It's like what was the most exciting thing that happened? They have to tell you something. So you can also ask in the future, what's the most exciting thing coming up? Or like, what was the highlight of your weekend? What's the highlight of your week? You can also do the forward bit, which is family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Pretty self-explanatory. Do you have any siblings? What do you do for work? I bet it's something interesting. Recreation, what do you do in your free time? What are you doing the rest of the day today? Because that'll probably be some kind of recreation or work. And then dreams, that you can add that onto the end of work. So like, what's your, where do you want to be in 10 years? Like the job interview questions. Or you can be like, what would be your dream job? What's your dream travel destination? What's your dream family? I don't know, your dream, whatever. You can instantly, like with that tiny acronym, you can just pop off like about 15 questions off the top of your head. I think it's a pretty good one. And also remember that if one of these questions doesn't work, not every question is going to work. So you kind of just need to try like 3 in a row. And if then none of those 3 work, and they give dry responses to all of them, then maybe you can give up and stop talking to them. But don't ask one question and be like, so what do you do for work? And they just give some boring response. Don't give up straight away. Keep trying, because they just might not know how to respond to that question. Okay, and then finally, how do you ask better questions? Not just more, and how do you not ask them in a better way? How do you make the questions themselves better? So there's kind of a mindset trick here, because a good question is fun, it is unique, it is personal, and it has the opportunity to give long open-ended responses, not just yes or no, or like a story or whatever. So to ask more fun and more unique questions, it helps to be in a good mood and to be confident and to be relaxed. Because if you're relaxed and you just don't really care, you're gonna ask those more deep philosophical questions, or you're gonna ask some random hypothetical would you rather, or you're gonna ask a more fun question. And on top of that, another kind of mindset is to be actually interested in the person you're talking to, because then you're going to ask more open-ended questions and you're going to ask more personal questions as well. So when you do those 2 things, you're able to ask better questions kind of just naturally. And so to do this, you need to not be focusing on yourself. You need to not be anxious. So just focus on the other person, put more effort into when you're feeling anxious, focus on being interested in the other person, and focus on having fun. And when you do those 2 things, your quality of questions themselves will improve. So after you've done that, you'll be asking good questions, you'll be thinking of lots of them, you'll be asking them in good ways, And even if they don't go well and it's a bad one, you're going to play it off and then you're going to have another question. So you basically unlocked an infinite question glitch, and the other person is actually going to respond well to all of your questions. So I really hope this helps. And if you need to become more confident so that you can be more comfortable asking these questions, then I've got a video on that over here. But regardless, have a great day.